Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And in this video I'll be reviewing the fourth test between India and England. And so India won this test convincingly to make it 3-1 and to seal their place in the World Test Championship final. And this is something that I'll get to. And so how did the test go? So England batted first and scored 205. And so it wasn't a great start for them because Dom Sibley got early to Akshar Patel. And the thing is that they would have actually done quite a bit of work from the previous test on the fact that you'd play for the straight one rather than play for turn. And then in the end, he played for the straight one of Akshar Patel and he got bowled. So it wasn't a great start for England. And Zach Crawley, he tried to be positive, but he just hit the ball, straight to mid off. And the execution wasn't quite there. So he got out in the end. And then, England lost two quick wickets. And Joe Root also for 5 of 9. The real, I mean, kind of the main man in this batting lineup, especially in these conditions. And Mohammad Siraj got him out LBW. And as you can see, England lost 3 wickets for not many runs on the board, and there was a need for another recovery job. And so, Johnny Bairstow and Ben Stokes were providing that recovery job, and they were actually going pretty well. And Johnny Bairstow got out for 28 of 67, and Ben Stokes was still going and on the scoreboard, it will say 55 of 121. The thing is that you may think if that's the highest score in the innings, then, of course, it isn't really great. But I'm saying that you see how he was playing, how assured he looked. I mean, it was such an excellent innings to watch. And he really deserved more than that. And, that at that stage, he really was, him being at the crease was crucial for England to get a competitive total. And, once he got out, it was always going to be difficult. I'm not saying 205 wasn't competitive because, it was still something to play with. But, yeah, him getting out kind of dampened their expectations of getting, a bigger total. And Ollie Pope came in next. And here's the thing. He only scored 29. But one, a thing that we saw is that he actually learnt from the previous test. Because you saw in the previous test, you saw the fact that in the same over, he actually went down the track to defend one. He got to the pitch of the ball to defend one. And then to a similar ball from Ashwin, he plays down the wrong line, gets stuck on the crease and gets bowled. And so this happened when Ashwin was bowling over the wicket and around the wicket. And so he came into this test and you saw he was eager to use his feet, and he did that to great effect. And here's the thing, he only scored 29 of 87, but seeing that he'd learned from such an experience very quickly, it's actually it's very good signs. You know that he's such a good player. And so even though the score was 29, I just thought that for him this would be a very good start. And then Dan Lawrence. So Dan Lawrence played well in this innings and also in the next innings, because in this innings he scored 46 of 74, and the next he scored 50 of 50 of 95. Yeah. And so here's the thing. Now, I wasn't very surprised he didn't do well at number 3 because I took the example of Dinesh Chandimal in a previous video where Sri Lanka toured Australia in 2019. And so Chandimal usually bats at number 5, and so putting him up to number 3 would always, it's a big jump. And so it's that number 3 is the hardest position to bat in Test cricket, despite how hard number 5 is to bat, because, you look at 3, 4, and 5 really being, the run engines. Number 3 is, it's a bit higher level, and, many people wouldn't want to bat at number 3, really. And so you kind of really need those rock players to bat. They're like a Pujara kind of players to bat at number 3 and really be solid. And so, I wasn't very surprised that, Chandimal didn't have a very good time of it. And he was quite unfairly dropped for the next tour to South Africa, which Sri Lanka won. And as I said, it was very unfairly dropped because, someone who plays at number 5, putting them on number 3 in Australia against, one of the best bowling attacks in the world. I mean, it really is an unfair thing to just ask someone to do that, randomly. And so if it didn't work for him, someone who has far less experience in his test career, and especially playing against India in India, I didn't really see it working out. And it didn't work out. But you saw some signs of him playing spin well, where he scored 73 against Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka, and also he in the second in England's second innings in the second test, I really thought, you saw him attacking Ashwin where he used his feet and hit him for six, and he got out in a very disappointing way and he got stumped. But you saw the fact that he actually played spin pretty well, and so him coming in lower down the order, I really thought that it kind of, the burden was kind of freed, and so he could just play the way that he, wanted to, and he played very well. He scored 46 or 74, and he kind of got out in a rush of blood. I mean, again, tried to be positive, but you could say that he could have been positive, but I mean, as when you've got to 46, he probably didn't need to throw it away like that, but it is what it is, and he really deserved a 50 because he's playing very well. And yeah, he got out for 46 of 74. He got stumped again. And the bowling figures for India: so Ishan Sharma none for 23 and 9. Mohammad Siraj 2 for 45 and 14. Akshar Patel 4 for 68 and 26. Ravichandran Ashwin 3 for 47 and 19.5. And Washington Sundar 2 for 14 and 7. So the spinners had a very good time of it. And yeah, England got all out for 205. And I still thought it was something to play with. And seeing India's innings, you kind of thought at one point it definitely was. And actually throughout the whole innings you thought it was, because I'll get to the reason why it wasn't in the end. So Shubman Gill got out in the third ball of the innings, and another low score for him. And they do back Shubman Gill. And the thing is, if you look at the fact that he hasn't really, had a significant contribution apart from the 50 in the series at all, and yet he's played the fourth test out of a 4-match series, and so I'm sure that they will still persist with him, because you know how good of a player he is. And he did struggle with the moving ball even in Australia when Pat Cummins is swinging it away from him, and in this, he's actually struggling when Anderson is swinging it into him. And so, I'm not surprised that he is struggling in the moving ball, because he has, again, not criticizing his technique or anything, but he has a very unusual technique where you can see he doesn't really commit to, forward, and he kind of hangs back. And, you especially saw in Australia the shot where he kind of just goes like this through cover, and it just pings off the bat. And so it's a very unusual technique, but he's a very good player, and yeah, I hope that he can get some good runs. Then there's Rohit Sharma, who he reined himself in. India had lost Cheteshwar Pujara for 17 of 66 as well. Once again, it was kind of a similar dismissal to the first innings in the third test of Jack Leach, where he played for turn and then it was a straight one, and so he got out for 17 of 66. Kohli got out, by Jaffa of Ben Stokes. It kind of rose up, and he got out for a duck caught behind him, 0 of 8. And I'll get to Ben Stokes in a bit, because it was such a good bowling effort for him, and I'll get to this later. But I'm saying, Kohli got out, and so Rohit Sharma and Ajinkya Rahane had this little bit of like a partnership, but unfortunately, Ajinkya Rahane got out, and it was the India at one stage were 80 for 4 of 37.5, and Ajinkya Rahane got caught off Anderson in the slips for 27 of 45. And so England, I said that I talked about the fact that they had something to play with, and they got India 80 for 4. Then Rohit Sharma got out as well, and 121 for 5, because this is an excellent delivery from Ben Stokes that swung in late, and Rohit Sharma didn't expect it, and he got out. I think it was LBW umpire's call, and Ben Stokes got another wicket, and India were 121 for 5, and things weren't really going too well, and things the only worsened as Ashwin got out, and if 140 odd for 6, and so England were they were actually in a pretty good position, and if the fact is that if they'd got these wickets for, let's say, 40 runs, then they would have a 20-run lead, which means that they would have the basis to kind of build on it in their innings. But this is where I really thought their bowling, it was kind of confusing, because it just lost steam. And what Rishabh Pant and Washington Sundar, Washington Sundar played the anchor role and then later started playing his shots. Rishabh Pant just, from the get-go started smashing the bowlers around. And the thing is that you see players who in Test cricket who like to play counter-attacking innings. It's the fact that they still have to bat. The reason why it's so hard, and the reason why they should be appreciated to such a high level because of what they do, is because they still have to bat normally. So you still have to have the game sense to say, look, if someone bowls a good ball, I'll defend it. And while I'm being positive, I can recognize what is. I mean, all right, this may be self-explanatory, but I can recognize a good ball and a bad ball, even though I may be in a slightly more positive mood, so that, even though I'm in a positive mood, I don't get carried away. And I had to bat for a long time. And this counter-attacking 100 was pivotal in shifting the control of the game towards India. And Washington Sundar also chipping, he's got 96 of 174, and he was stranded now in the end because Ben Stokes got the wickets of Ishant Sharma and Mohammad Siraj. And so you saw Rishabh Pant's shots. I mean, the outrageous shot. Well, first of all, when he just charged down the track to Jimmy Anderson and hits him over mid off, and then that kind of this reverse sweep kind of thing, this reverse lap kind of thing off Jimmy Anderson. It was a statement shot, and Anderson was bowling with a new ball as well, and he got to his 100 off a 6, and it was a brilliant innings, 101 off 118, and he was disappointed with the way he got out. But I mean, if you look at the kind of scores he's had, look at the kind of the 50 plus scores that he's got, and he completely deserved the 100 for what he's done. And I'm very happy that he got his 100, and this was a brilliant counter-attacking innings to watch. And then Washington Sundar and Akshay Patel still continued hitting English bowlers. Akshay Patel was kind of the anchor, and Washington Sundar, as I said, he started playing his shots now. And this is the thing. So India, in the end, this stretched to the start of day 3, and India got 365 from being 80 for 4. And so the English bowling figures, Jimmy Anderson 3 for 44 and 25. Now, if you think that's spectacular, he was once 2 for 7 in 12 overs. And so, I mean, here's someone who wouldn't get any assistance from the conditions, and yet he falls 5. In his first 5 overs he got 1 for none. And so he bowled 5 overs in a row, 5 maidens on the trot in his first 5 overs. And here's the thing, he actually had to get smashed around a bit at the end to even get it to 3 for 44 and 25 overs, which is ridiculous. And so Anderson has been brilliant in this series. I never actually expected him to be this good. I mean, I said in my preview that with this control that he has, he'll always be hard to get away, and with the line and lengths that he maintains. But I didn't expect him to be this, do this well in this series. So it's great to see him do this well. And Ben Stokes, I'll get to, because honestly he was brilliant, I thought. And Jack Leach 2 for 89 in 27. So again, he didn't bowl too badly. It's just that this kind of played into the selection, which I'll also get to, because this was actually a very positive selection for me. Now Dom Bess, I'm sorry, when you're bowling on such a turning track and everything, where you see how well the Indian spinners did, and even the other spinners in this team have done decently, and then you come along and give none for 71 in 17 overs. I mean, like, that just, I don't know what to say for that, really. And just it's just, he's very low in confidence, and the problem for England is that they just don't. Jack Leach is a very good spinner, but if you look at this team, if you look at their spin lineup, it isn't scaring anyone. And this is something that, it's a big thing, barring them from winning overseas, especially in, because, if you look at places like India and Australia, well, I'm saying Australia because you look at what Nathan Lyon does, which shows that spin does have a huge role there. And then if you look at, England, let's say, going to Australia to play the Ashes, and then you have, if you look at England's, spin bowling lineup, then it isn't scaring anyone. And so they're going to have to address this problem. And then Ben Stokes with none for 56 in 18 overs. And so I thought he actually did okay, considering, he's a part-time bowler, and, those figures are okay for a part-time bowler. And so here's the thing. So, that's what India got 365. and the Indian innings. And so, no, sorry, the English innings. And again, this was really not very good from them. Dom Sibley got in a very unlucky way for 3 of 21. Zach Kohli got out for 5 of 16. Johnny Bairstow, a duck. And honestly, Sunil Gavaskar said this. And the thing is, I thought it was a bit harsh, but I could completely understand what he was saying. And I don't think that he was questioning Johnny Bairstow's, he said it looked like a shot, it looked like he was disinterested, but I don't think he was questioning his, attitude towards it. It was kind of like, he may have been questioning that a little bit, but what I'm trying to say is this. So he was questioning the fact that how does he view Test cricket compared to the other formats that he plays in, because he would be lying. And again, this is just human nature. If you do well in something and don't do well in something else, you're more likely to be invested in something that you do well in than the thing that you aren't doing that great in. And so the fact is, because of his this the gap between the 2017 India tour and the 2021 India tour has seen the rise in his white ball career, and really a kind of a plateau and a slightly dipping in his Test career. And if you look at this series, he's got 3 ducks out of 4 innings with his highest score of 28. And so for me, like, I feel like putting his figures, blaming him wouldn't be too great, because again, this was a collective batting effort. It just wasn't too great apart from Joe Root, really. And that's the thing. And so again, like, I'm not really gonna scapegoat his numbers for England series, but I'm saying that I completely understand why Sunil Gavaskar said that, because the leg slip was literally right there, and Ashwin bowls the ball and he just turns it around the corner right into the leg slip's hands, and no one could understand what was going on. And it seemed like a kind of a brain fade movement. And yeah, Johnny Bairstow got out for a duck, and Joe Root came into bat. And honestly, if you look at this innings, him and Dan Lawrence were the only 2 people who looked any kind of comfortable on this pitch. And Joe Root, he's looked a class apart in the top order. No one else has been able to even try to really challenge these conditions when it's been turning. And you look at Joe Root, he's been a class apart, easily the best player spin in England. And it's just that, as of now, definitely. And so this just wasn't a great innings from England. You saw Ben Stokes trying to kind of play this, this lap shot of Akshar Patel. And it seemed like Virat Kohli was waiting for that shot, because he, stood at kind of a leg slip position. And no, I think it was either short leg or leg slip position. And I think it was leg slip, and he took the catch. And so this wasn't very great for England, and they lost these wickets very quickly. And yeah, there's nothing really much for me to say in this innings, really. I mean, there's obviously going to be some retrospective things to say, but apart from that, there was nothing to write home about. And I'm just going to go straight to the bowling figures, because Siraj, none for 12 in 4 overs. Akshar Patel, 5 for 48 in 24. Ravichandran Ashwin, 5 for 47 in 22.5. And Washington Sundar, none for 16 in 4 overs. And Akshar Patel has played 3 Test matches in this series, and really 3 Test matches in his Test career, and he's picked up 27 wickets. And here's the thing, I think Ajanta Mendis's record, and this is a record for a 3 Test series. He took 26 wickets in a 3 Test series, but here's the thing, Akshar Patel has only played 3 Tests in the series, so really, you could even say he may have broken the record. And so, here's someone who you never expected to succeed in Test cricket. I didn't think he was going to do badly, but you thought that, as I said, in limited overs, I would prefer him over Jadeja. But in Tests, and we've seen what Jadeja can do, we would have thought that it would be Jadeja. And the thing is that I understand when Jadeja comes back, they would probably play him. But, what would he would be thinking, look, I have something to do here, because while I've been, in the sidelines, he's got in his first 3 Test matches ever, he's got 27 wickets. Now, it will be very hard for me to replicate that, of course, but the fact is there'll be some kind of thing on me that I'm going to have to perform to a high standard because he's had, Akshar Patel has had such a breakout series. And so no one expected, this kind of a thing where you look at someone who's just come in and you think, well, he's had such a statement series that, such a reputable player in Jadeja is really going to have to put in some good performances because considering what people have been getting used to in the last 3 Test matches. And yeah, I'm watching a Sundar with none for 16 and 4 overs, and that was this series. In India won 3 Tests in a row to make it 3-1. And unsurprisingly, the man of the series was Ashwin. And so while Akshar Patel could have had a case for the man of the series, I just thought Ashwin's 100 in the second Test ensured that India would win the game. And he also did. He took 9 wickets in the first Test as well, and he won very economically in that first innings when it was an absolute flat road, and he still got 3 wickets. And so honestly, I can understand why Ashwin just got there ahead of Akshar Patel. And honestly, that was this series. You see in the performance for India, Rishabh Pant, Rohit Sharma, Ravichandran Ashwin, Akshar Patel. The seamers also, you look at Mohammad Siraj has been excellent. And Washington Sundar, you see in the innings that he's played. And you look at some of the players. I would say that middle core, that 3, 4, and 5 didn't probably have the greatest series. But here's the thing. I mean, one, they didn't really have to because you saw batting was generally difficult, and you look at Virat Kohli. What he scored 250s, one of them in a losing cause, but in the second 50, his innings along with Ashwin's innings, ensured that India were in a position to win the game, and especially that masterclass 62 on that pitch. It was turning, and you had to really play well to score runs, and he did do that. So honestly, look, his innings was a factor in winning India a Test match out of 4, and so that's a very good thing. Ajinkya Rahane in that second Test as well. His innings made sure that India would have this position of 329, and England, they struggled to catch up from there. And Pujara, despite the fact that his 50 was in a losing cause, he scored 73. Now Pujara didn't have the series that he would like because especially considering the fact the whole playing for turn instead of the straight one, and it looked, the dismissals of against Jack Leach looked, very weird. But he probably didn't have his greatest series. But I feel like off late he's kind of scored some very important 50s, and especially you've seen in Australia how important his runs have been. And he also said something that's very true. Sometimes facing more balls is more important than how many runs you score. And it is definitely true that, he has been in many situations where that is the case, and he's delivered in those situations. So yeah, that's on Pujara. And so I don't think that for a team that's won the series, and especially won the last 3 Tests so convincingly, is there any need for any criticism? Well, not really. And that's on India. So before I get, and here's the thing on Ben Stokes here. So apparently he had a stomach bug when he was coming into bowl for this for India's first innings. Now, if you look at England's bowling attack here, so this is Jimmy Anderson, Ben Stokes, Jack Leach, Dom Best, Joe Root. So the thing is, England effectively picked a team for the pitch, what happened in the previous game. Now, I can understand why they did this, but if you look at the players they picked, I just don't get it. I mean, like, and here's the thing, it's so frustrating for them that you pick the extra spinner and also the extra batting option in Dom Best, and thinking that you get 3 spinners for that kind of a surface, and then a part-time spinner bowls better than him, has consistently been bowling better than him in this series, and it really isn't a great thing for them. And Jimmy Anderson, yes, bowled the new ball, and then you thought, poor Ben Stokes, someone with a stomach bug, has to toil in the Indian heat and bowl 27.4 overs and pick up 4 wickets. And I think he was also, had, some. It seemed like he wasn't really doing well with a few like injuries. I mean, he wasn't injured, but definitely you thought he was in some discomfort, and it showed because this bowling attack was very tired, and with Ben Stokes and Jimmy Anderson effectively doing all the work. You especially saw Ben Stokes was a bit down on pace sometimes, understandably, and they just hit him for runs because they just thought, look, I mean, they do all these floaty, slow balls, well, not slow, but medium pace balls. Let's just hit them for boundaries. And Dom Best's bowling didn't help either, and there just wasn't any real threat. And Jimmy Anderson tried his hardest, but yeah, then you saw Rishabh Pant playing the shots that he did, and it was a very weird bowling attack. And England really went in with the extra batsmen, and you saw along with Ben Foakes, along with Dan Lawrence, and also there's Dom Bess as well. And so really, and Jack Leach can bat a bit as well. So really, this is a very deep batting lineup. And you look at it, it didn't even pay off in the end because they thought that they would get runs, and then with the spinners that they had, they'll be able to do some damage because they'll be able to bowl long spells. So they don't really need many bowlers as such, and they can pack their side with batting. And then their batting just didn't work. 205 and 135, and then your bowlers don't get the job done. And the fact is that because this attack seemed very undercooked, in a situation where they could have really then should have taken advantage of the game and really got India bowled out for less than 200, they let the game drift away from them in a position that very few teams even think of letting it drift away from. But I don't know how England managed to do it, but they actually made India, or let India, not let, but because India batted very well from that point. But 365 from the position that India were in. I mean, 145 for 6 they were, I think. I mean, just ridiculous. And so the 7th wicket fell at 259, and then it was so on. And so honestly, it wasn't very great. And yeah, I mean, I don't exactly know what to say. It's just that you look at this England team, as I said, I mean, everyone, in fact, actually, after the first day, people were still talking about the pitch. Now, I don't get what people are saying here, because honestly, it's like this. Why, when it's swinging, let's face it, when India come to England, they're going to play these grassy, farmlands, and then, there's going to be that much grass on the track, and there's going to be clouds, and they're going to swing the ball. And the thing is that when you can do that, and when England would definitely do that and still say, look, we can play the home advantage and still and kind of use it as, well, swing is authentic when you come to England. And here's the thing on this one. Why is a turning track why does a turning track have connotations of a minefield, and kind of have in a negative sense where suddenly because it's actually very unfair when you compare two dynamics, which is pace and spin. And the thing is that it's just the fact that here's the thing. So if you compare pace and spin, with pace there's no real thing as deterioration, because when there's grass on the pitch, there's clouds in the sky. I mean, nothing much can happen to the surface, doesn't come into play there, because as long as the ball is relatively new, and even if it isn't relatively new, you see in England where the ball still moves around pretty much all the time. And so there's no real case of deterioration. Now you look at spinners getting into the game, even on swinging pitches, it involves deterioration. And so because turn involves, as I said, I keep on saying the whole deterioration thing, suddenly they say the surface is a minefield, and because and they just don't like the fact that the ball turns square, because they have to apply a different skill to play it. And then they just start moaning, saying, oh, well, these pitches aren't very great. I mean, it's just I don't get what they're doing, because if you can't play, just imagine if England had got to the World Test Championship final. I mean, I mean, honestly, I mean, just pretty much crying whenever they have to play spin. I mean, it's just ridiculous. That's why I'm just saying I don't get these people criticizing the pitch, because there isn't anything wrong with it. Even in the third test, even the commentators mentioned viable options that even we as viewers saw that they could be done. And these are very reputable players, ex-players in the game, and so they said their options, and you saw that the batsmen could have applied themselves better. And you saw India when they're chasing, maybe because they're only chasing 49, but still on that kind of pitch, maybe the fall of wickets could have been possible there as well. And England didn't bowl well, and they gave the runs away in a very quick time, less than half an hour. And so this isn't anything about who's it? This isn't anything about the pitch. It's just that fact that England didn't play spin well, and that's that. So India have got to the World Test Championship final, and yeah, as I said, even if they didn't, I mean, who cares? Because honestly, here's the thing. So the game, I think, is in Southampton, and I think it's because you look at in the Aegeus Bowl. The fact is that the hotel and the ground is very close. I think it's even the hotel is effectively on site, so you could just walk, well, not very far, and you'd go to the hotel. And we saw this when when Pakistan and West Indies came over, and we saw Test match cricket being played there, and the World Test Championship final for that reason will probably be played in Southampton. And so it'll be played in England where the conditions, the ball moves around. Now, New Zealand and England, these are very similar conditions. And so you look at a team that has been playing a home season in New Zealand with, the swinging conditions, and then a team that's been playing at home in India. Now, if New Zealand beat India, does it really mean that New Zealand are the best test team in the world? No, it doesn't, because let's be completely honest, when they go to other, places that, if they went to India, played a test series against India, they would probably lose. And India, you saw they lost when they went to New Zealand, they lost 2-0. And so both these sides know how to win at home, but overseas, India are the much more competitive team. And so even if India lose this Test Championship final, even if they didn't even make it, and with the stuff that they've achieved, beating Australia and one of the best test or even the best series wins in general ever, I mean, do you really care that they're not in a final where they win something to apparently prove that they're that they're the suppose that they're the best team in the world? I mean, look at what they've achieved. I mean, they don't need to have this kind of this trophy to say, look, we've achieved something. And so yeah, that's my take on that. And yeah, that was a series. I was it was still especially a series between these kind of sides it was a very good series to watch. And let's see how the World Test Championship final goes. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Please share this video with your friends, and remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?